Hello there, this is Douglas V. Gibbs, Constitution Study TV, and normally I answer questions that are sent to me at constitutionspeaker@yahoo.com. This is something that's been in the news all day. I wanted to do a video on it, and I suppose it's sort of a question. Dennis Jackson, who is a student in my Constitution class in Corona on Tuesday nights, and also my co-host on my radio program on KMET 1490 AM on Saturdays from 1 to 3 Pacific time, Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs, said, "Hey man, Doug, you should be all over this. You wrote about this," and this is true. I wrote about birthright citizenship in my first book, 25 Myths in the United States Constitution. In 2014 is when the book was published. And so this is a topic I've been talking about for a while. And he was telling me how everybody on the radio all day and everybody on TV, they were dead wrong, and you know, I should be on the air with these people. I should be setting everybody straight. So I decided I'd do this video, try to get it out there. And basically what it is the idea of birthright citizenship is a myth. In other words, it's a misinterpretation of what was originally intended. If you want to know what was originally intended, you go back to the original language. You go back to the people who wrote it. You go back to the original testimonies and so on and so forth. And when it came to the 14th Amendment, the two gentlemen that were tasked with writing the Citizenship Clause in the 14th Amendment were Senators Trumbull and Senators Trumbull and Howard. Senator Trumbull, Senator Howard. And they, after writing this particular clause, gave their testimony before Congress. It's in the congressional record. It's called, that time period, it's called the Congressional Globe. And they were asked the same questions we're asking today, and they answered them. And then we've got a court system that has changed what was originally intended. For over 100 years, we've believed that birthright citizenship means that being born on American soil alone makes you a U.S. citizen, and that's not the case, or at least that's not what was originally intended. So first, before we read parts of the testimony of these two particular senators, let's read the clause itself so that we can go over this. So this is all about birthright citizenship, and this is with the caravans that are coming towards the border and all that. And President Trump made mention that he wants to write an executive order regarding birthright citizenship. He can, because it's an interpretation problem. The judges, number one, there's nothing in the Constitution that gives the judges the authority of judicial review or defining or interpreting the Constitution. It says what it says. They're supposed to apply the law to the cases they hear. That's a whole different discussion for another time. We'll get into it sometime. But here's what the 14th Amendment says. Citizenship Clause. Section 1. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. That word "and" is key. It does not say all persons born or naturalized in the United States and then are citizens of the United States. There's that in-between part, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. The "and" means there's something additional to just being born on soil. So the question is, what does subject to the jurisdiction thereof mean? From a legal standpoint, from what the scholars have been saying, what the judges have been saying, what law enforcement has been saying, is that means within the borders, you're under the legal jurisdiction, and therefore you're subject to the jurisdiction thereof. During the testimonies, Congress asked the authors of this clause, what did they mean? First of all, let's get one thing straight. This clause was originally written to make sure that the children of the slaves were awarded citizenship, that there was no questions about their citizenship. That was the intent. However, they knew that it would be used for more things. Once something's in the Constitution, it gets twisted. It gets, lawyers and judges and all that, they try to interpret and change and twist and adjust and all that other stuff. And so they made sure that they used a language that could not be. And that was questioned during the testimonies given by the two senators who testified before Congress. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually read you parts of the book, parts of the chapter. If you want to read the whole thing, you can either buy the book, 25 Myths of the United States Constitution by Douglas V. Gibbs, Or if you look on politicalpistachio.com, I've put this chapter on the website 2 or 3 times, so you can probably find the chapter if you just want that chapter. But if you want the entire book in its published form, you either need to buy the paperback or you can get it on Kindle. All right. So first of all, we have to understand this. The Civil Rights Act of 1866 was created in the hopes of correcting the problem where there was a question regarding legality. Some of the language of the Civil Rights Act of 1866 states, all persons born in the United States and not subject to any foreign power, excluding Indians not taxed, are hereby declared to be citizens of the United States. All persons within the jurisdiction of the United States shall have the same right in every state and territory to make and enforce contracts, to sue, be parties, give evidence, and to the full and equal benefit of all laws and proceedings for the security of persons and property as enjoyed by white citizens, and shall be subject to like punishment, pains, penalties, taxes, licenses, and exactions of every kind, and to no other. That's the Civil Rights Act of 1866, which came before the ratification of the 14th Amendment and the Citizenship Clause. Let me go back again and read the very beginning. All persons born in the United States and not subject to any foreign power. Okay? Then it says all persons within the jurisdiction of the United States shall have the same right, and within the jurisdiction of the United States and not subject to any foreign power. Those are connected in the 1866 Civil Rights Act. All right, now, Michigan Senator Jacob Howard, one of the 2 principal authors of the Citizenship Clause, noted that its provision, subject to the jurisdiction thereof, excluded American Indians who had tribal nationalities. That's what it meant by Indians that do not pay tax. That means that they have decided not to become a part of the United States, not become a citizen. So they're within the borders of the United States, but they're not subject to the jurisdiction because they don't have an allegiance to the United States. They are subject to a foreign power or a foreign government or foreign sovereignty, which in this case it would be their tribal nationalities. Now, what he said was that the subject to jurisdiction thereof excluded American Indians who had tribal nationalities and persons born in the United States who are foreigners, aliens, who belong to the families of ambassadors or foreign ministers. Here is the actual quote. Mr. Howard, Michigan Senator Jacob Howard, addressing the question about what was meant by subject to the jurisdiction thereof in the Citizenship Clause. Mr. Howard said, I now move to take up House Joint Resolution number 127. The motion was agreed to. This is the actual congressional record I'm reading from. The motion was agreed to, and the Senate, as in committee of the whole, resumed the consideration of the joint resolution, H.R. number 127, proposing an amendment to the Constitution of the United States. Howard said, the First Amendment is to Section 1, declaring that all persons born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the states wherein they reside. I do not propose to say anything on that subject except that the question of citizenship has been fully discussed in this body as not to need any further elucidation, in my opinion. This amendment, which I have offered, is simply declaratory of what I regard as the law of the land already, that every person born within the limits of the United States and subject to their jurisdiction is by virtue of natural law and national law a citizen of the United States. This will not, of course, include persons born in the United States who are foreigners, aliens, who belong to the families of ambassadors or foreign ministers accredited to the government of the United States, but will include every other class of persons. It settles the great question of citizenship and removes all doubt as to what persons are or are not citizens of the United States. This has long been a great desideratum in the jurisprudence and legislation of this country. He went out of his way to indicate that children born on American soil of foreign citizens are not included. Did you hear that? He was talking about anchor babies. Clearly, the framers of the 14th Amendment had no intention of freely giving away American citizenship to just anyone simply because they may have been born on American soil. The second author of the Citizenship Clause, Illinois Senator Lyman Trumbull, added that subject to the jurisdiction of the United States meant not owing allegiance to anybody else. That's a key there. Here is his full quote. The provision is that all persons born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens. That means subject to the complete jurisdiction thereof. What do we mean by complete jurisdiction thereof? Not owing allegiance to anybody else. That is what it means. Trumbull continued. Can you sue a Navajo Indian in court? Are they in any sense subject to the complete jurisdiction of the United States? By no means. We make treaties with them, and therefore they are not subject to our jurisdiction. If they were, we wouldn't make treaties with them. It is only those persons who come completely within our jurisdiction, who are subject to our laws, that we think of making citizens, and there can be no objection to the proposition that such persons should be citizens. Senator Howard concurred with what Mr. Trumbull had to say, saying this: I concur entirely with the Honorable Senator from Illinois, Trumbull, in holding that the word jurisdiction, as here employed, ought to be construed so as to imply a full and complete jurisdiction on the part of the United States, whether exercised by Congress, by the executive, or by the judicial department. That is to say, the same jurisdiction in extent and quality as applies to every citizen of the United States now. So, the authors of the Citizenship Clause, which people claim gives us birthright citizenship, said that being born on American soil is not enough. That you must have full allegiance to the United States in order to earn that citizenship. Now, if it's a child and they're unable to give their allegiance, then it's going to go back to the allegiance of their parents. And if you have two illegal aliens who's flying a flag of another country, who have invaded our space and not obeyed America's laws by forcing their way into the country, their allegiance is not to our country. Therefore, them and their children are not citizens. To say that someone who broke into your house and then dropped a baby on your couch, that baby is suddenly a member of your family, would not be acceptable. So why would that be acceptable when it comes to our country? Birthright citizenship does not exist, or it's not supposed to exist, as it has been existing for over 100 years. The judges got it wrong. President Trump has it right. And if he uses an executive order to clarify that, I wish I was on his team. President Trump, if you see this, hire me. constitutionspeaker at yahoo.com. Douglas V. Gibbs. I'm serious. You have every authority to use an executive order because it is not legislation. It is not constitutional the way they are interpreting it. So you can use an executive order to clarify what was meant. Now, yes, it'll go to the courts and the judges are going to wrestle with it, and because everybody thinks the judges are the final say on the U.S. Constitution, which, once again, they don't have that authority. And but I have faith that if it were to work its way all the way to the Supreme Court, especially the way the Supreme Court is populated at this moment with the latest additions, Justice Gorsuch and Justice Kavanaugh, I think the executive order will stand. Now, that said, there's also nothing in the Constitution that says any judge can strike down an executive order. That's also unconstitutional, but that's for another time. So, real quick recap. Birthright citizenship does not exist as it is understood. Or at least it's not supposed to. The writers of the Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment never intended that. Neither did Congress when they approved the proposal. Neither did the states when they ratified the amendment. The ratification of that amendment, the proposal by Congress, and the writing by the authors who wrote it, the intent was that in order to be a citizen, you have to be born on American soil and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Born on American soil or naturalized. Naturalized is a different way, but born American soil or naturalized and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. The full jurisdiction, full allegiance, holding no loyalties to a foreign power. Can you say that about the illegal aliens? Absolutely not. nor can he say that about their children. Mr. President, write your executive order. I am Douglas V. Gibbs, douglasvgibbs.com, politicalpistachio.com. Ask me your Constitution questions at constitutionspeaker@yahoo.com. Appreciate the fact that you're watching this. Share this video. I want this one to go viral. They need to know. It's like all of these pundits on TV, even Fox News people, they got no idea what we're talking about. Not a single one of them on the radio or on the TV that I've heard today is even within the ballpark of the truth. The truth needs to get out there. Make this video viral. Subscribe. And you know what? If you want to help financially, please do. Because I tell you what, it's getting harder and harder to do all this stuff. We're getting attacked from all directions by the left. We need your help. Donate buttons are at politicalpistachio.com. douglasvgibbs.com. Thanks for listening. Spread this message and buy the book 25 Myths in the United States Constitution by Douglas V. Gibbs so that you know the truth about the Constitution and we can fight this ridiculousness of a misinterpretation and a maladministration of our United States Constitution. I'm done.